All power to all people. All power to the people. All power to the people. All power to the people. Forward with Pan-Africanism, forward. Forward with Pan-Africanism, forward. Forward with internationalism, forward. Forward with internationalism, forward. Phansi, nge-xenophobia, phansi. Phansi, nge-xenophobia, phansi. 350 Africans buried until now. So since the advent of our democracy, we have killed 350 fellow Africans. Shame, moral outrage, condemnation are necessary and essential first steps. However, it is far from enough. I repeat, shame, moral outrage, and condemnation necessary, essential, but not enough. We've been saying this since 1994. Since 1994, we have been expressing shame, moral outrage, and we've condemned. It's not enough. And so today, for me personally, and I hope for all of us here and in South Africa, we begin the process of restoration. We begin the process of rebuilding our fabric. We begin the process of remaking ourselves. We begin so in conversation. We begin so in dialogue. It's how we begin to build or rebuild our moral fabric. In order to rebuild our moral fabric, we need national mobilization. It begins here with us mobilizing at the University of Johannesburg. That national mobilization must take us to our true calling. The gift that our nation's liberators gave us, freedom, and the call to build the new society. That is what we have been tasked to do. We've been given freedom, and we are being challenged to build the new society that the Constitution of the Republic holds us out, challenges us to build. A new society that is free of oppression of one by another. One that is caring, one that is inclusive, one that is transforming. It begins here at the University of Johannesburg. One where we uplift the human dignity of all. Our Constitution challenges us on 4 grounds to advance the new society: equality, democracy, freedom. But the greatest of this is repairing and rebuilding the human dignity of our people, all of our people. Apartheid diminished us as human beings, or sought to diminish us as human beings. 1994, continuing to today, challenges us to rebuild and nurture the human dignity of all South Africans, of all Africans, indeed of all who live and work in this nation. Our Constitution challenged us to build this new society on the foundations of Ubuntu. How do we articulate the word Ubuntu? But the practice is far from it. Because all of us are implicated. Not only the killers of the 350 fellow Africans, all of us are implicated. By being silent, by looking the other way, by turning a blind eye, we are all implicated. We can't do a Pontius Pilate act. Can't wash our hands. We all carry responsibility for what is unfolding in our nation. The new society that our Constitution holds out for us is to be founded on African solidarity, on Pan-Africanism, on good neighborliness. This new society must be built from the ground up by each one of us, together, struggling, bent over, moving forward to what I call a new Mandelask humanity. For no longer can we bathe in the glories of past victories. When we bathe in past victories, the fruits can be bitter xenophobia, as we see. For like sloth, xenophobia is destroying our hard-won heritage. Let's face it, it is destroying our hard-won heritage. So, South Africa and us who lay claim to calling ourselves South Africans must overcome our isolation from our neighbors. An isolation of thought, an isolation in thought and in action. So the problem is that 1994 came, call ourselves Africans, but actually our isolation from our continent, mental, intellectual, spatial, our isolation from our continent. On the one hand, in 1994, we pronounce ourselves as now fully part of Africa. There's a disjunction. You don't announce that you're an African simply by virtue of being born in Africa, simply because of your spatial location in Africa. For evidently, our reinsertion into our continent following the end of apartheid has been superficial and skin deep. Far from deep and profound. And so let our conversation begin urgently about what it means to be an African. What does it mean to be a Pan-African? Indeed, what beauty and a fantastic future lies there, rather than in a xenophobic and implicitly arrogant, narrow nationalism. Because the utterances that have led to the situation that we find ourselves in, this current moment, is precisely this narrow nationalism. It is precisely a fundamental misunderstanding of what it is to be an African or a Pan-African. Of course, I'm not saying there's no place for nation. I'm talking about nationalism as in you exist simply for your nation's sake or for your ethnic group's sake. So, at UJ, what is to be done? What is to be done? We heard from the president of UJAS that we need to replicate what tradition and culture we are building here in the university, outside our gates. It's a strong message from him. So what is to be done at UJ? Firstly, we will not be swayed, we will not be moved from our determination to establish our university as the epicenter, Pan-African epicenter of critical intellectual inquiry. Nothing will stop us from pursuing that goal and accomplishing that goal. And we will do this in the natural sciences, in the social sciences, and in the humanities. We will bend over day in, day out to establish this university as a humble but proud epicenter, Pan-African epicenter of critical intellectual inquiry. In a matter of weeks, we will establish the Institute for Advanced Studies, and shortly thereafter the Institute for African Thought and Conversation, that are intended to take this work forward. Secondly, we will lead and stimulate national public discourse on what is the meaning. What is the meaning of Pan-African? What is the meaning of African? How is that evolve and how is that evolving? And how is that being challenged right now? Thirdly, we will establish a Pan-African naming tradition of faculties and institutes. One of the names, for example, put forward for the Institute for African Thought and Conversation is the Sheikh Diop Institute for African Thought and Conversation. And so, in our faculties, in our facilities, in our spaces, this year, we will make a difference in this naming tradition of our university. Next, we must deepen our citizenship studies undergraduates program to engage with the meaning of a Pan-African identity. At university, that's our task. And so we will review our citizenship model for undergrad students to examine the extent to which it facilitates deep conversation and dialogue and enables us all to grow and move forward intellectually and otherwise. Further, we will continue our efforts to grow our international student body that is close to 3,000 to 5,000 by 2020. So we will see more international students, not less, at this university. Further, we will grow the academic staff body of this university, international academic staff body of this university. At the beginning of our first decade, in 2005, we had 26 international academic staff. We have now close to 200 international academic staff. And we will extend our international staff and grow in significant numbers our international staff and student in- and outbound programs across the continent and beyond. And we will join other initiatives to advance Pan-Africanism and internationalism, such as Thursday's People's March Against Xenophobia, as well as the National March in Pretoria to the Union Buildings Against Xenophobia, a march of 1 million people to the Union Buildings to demonstrate our resolve to end xenophobia in our nation. Phansi nge-xenophobia, phansi. Forward with Pan-Africanism, forward. Forward with Pan-Africanism, forward. Forward with internationalism, forward. Forward with internationalism, forward. Phansi nge-xenophobia, phansi. Thank you very much.
The University of Johannesburg. Rethink, reinvent.